I have been testing the new Kimi K2 Thinking model for the last 2 hours non-stop and pushed it to its absolute limits. Real-world tasks, complex ideas, everything. And after experimenting with it in depth, I'm finally ready to share everything with you. In this video, I will show you exactly what I created, what I generated, and how the model performs in the real scenarios. This video is going to be extremely interesting, so make sure you watch till the end because I am going to cover every important detail that you should know. So now I am on the Kimi website. The first thing I will do is turn thinking mode on and turn search off, because for this type of project we want pure reasoning without external data, and the model will remain set to K2. After that, I'm going to enter my full prompt here. Okay, my prompt says create an interactive text-based adventure game in HTML where NPCs can think, reason, and generate dynamic quests based on clear actions. Use logical reasoning to adapt quest difficulty and storyline. Include UI elements like buttons for users' choices. Generate the full HTML file so I can preview it directly in a browser. Explain briefly how the NPC logic works. Once the prompt is ready, I will hit send. Now let's take a moment to look at the thinking process, because this is the power of the thinking model. It doesn't just start generating code. Instead, it first analyzes the request carefully. Here you can see it planning everything step by step. It even writes, for the NPC logic, I can design a simple emotion and response system. This shows how the model actually reasons through the problem, deciding what features are needed, how the structure should look, what the style should be, and how each part should function. That's a really impressive capability. Now, some of you might be wondering why I wrote such a detailed prompt, or whether you also need to give such long instructions. The answer is simple. When you are using a thinking model, the more clearly you define the structure, the smarter and more accurate the output becomes. Think of it this way. If you tell the model only build a game, it has hundreds of interruptions. But when you explain the logic, the UI, the reasoning system, and even the preview requirement, the model understands your exact vision and builds something much closer to what you need. Another common doubt people have is, do I need to explain the logic every time? So the answer is not always. But if your project involves decision making, reasoning, or adaptive behavior like NPCs that react differently based on player actions, then yes, adding logic instructions will drastically improve the result. The thinking model performs best when you describe the why behind the feature, not just the what. Now the code generation is complete, and at the bottom it has also added a short explanation of how everything works. So let's go ahead and preview the output and see what the final result looks like. So it looks like the full preview isn't opening directly on my screen. But don't worry, there are plenty of free online tools where you can paste your entire HTML code and instantly see the full live preview right there. So these websites are extremely helpful, especially if you're someone who doesn't want to set up a local environment or deal with any technical steps. So I have opened one of those sites now, and I'm going to paste the entire code here. And you can see it has generated the complete preview perfectly. Here it says EP Quest Adventure, and just below that, welcome to the Realm Brave Adventure. What is your name? Everything is properly styled and displayed. I will enter my name here and then click on Begin Adventure. Once I do that, it takes me into the main game screen. Here it's showing different stats like level, health, gold, and reputation. And under that, I can see the game narration, starting with you stand in a peaceful village of Dawnhaven. Smoke rises from chimneys as villagers go about their day. This looks really good, and the best part is all the buttons are working smoothly. Every choice I click responds instantly and takes the story forward. For a completely AI-generated HTML game, this is honestly very impressive. Alright, so now let's move on to our second idea. Just like before, I'm going to keep thinking mode enabled and search disabled, because we want the model to rely entirely on its internal reasoning instead of pulling outside information. The model will stay set to K2, and here is the prompt I'm using for this one. Build a web app concept that allows users to paste code and automatically finds bugs, optimizes logic, and refactors it for clarity. Use reasoning steps to detect issues. Generate a simple HTML plus JS prototype UI and explanation for each fix. Now let's look at how it thinks through this prompt. And honestly, this is where the K2 thinking model shines. You can see it taking every requirement and breaking it down step by step. Like code input interface, paste code, multi-language detection, JavaScript, Python, etc. Reasoning engine to identify bugs, optimization suggestions, performance improvements, refactoring ideas, explanation system with each fix requiring a rationale. This is such a smart breakdown. It's not just listening items, it's actually organizing them logically, the same way a developer would plan a real project, right? And then just look at this line. The core here is how to implement a code analysis engine. When an AI model writes, it means it's genuinely reasoning. It's thinking deeply about the internal mechanics, not just generating text. This is the closest you will see to human-style thinking in an AI model right now. After that, it even writes, I am thinking about how to design the UI layout. And then it starts planning the structure of the interface. How the layout should look, what sections are needed, what features can be included. It basically pre-thinks the entire workflow before writing any code. Then it breaks down the different types of bug patterns it needs to detect. That level of detail is honestly impressive for an AI model working in real time. So now let's go ahead and preview the output. So here you can see the interface it generated, and honestly it looks very clean and professional. The title says Code Analyzer Pro, AI-powered code analysis, optimization and refactoring. Just below the title, the model has added a set of options. It has designed the interface exactly like a real code analysis tool, right? For example, before you paste your code, you first need to select the programming language you are working with. And here it has included almost all major languages like JavaScript, Python, Java, C++, and many more. So this is actually a smart touch because different languages have different error patterns, right? So if the tool knows which language you are using, it can evaluate the code much more accurately. So once you select the language, you get multiple checkboxes for what you want to detect. Like, do you want to find bugs, or do you want performance optimization, or do you want refactoring suggestions, or maybe you want to check for security issues. So you can enable any of these depending on what your goal is. This is something I really liked. The model isn't forcing everything at once. Below all these options, we have the main code input box. This is where you paste the code you want to analyze. So let's go ahead and test this. I'm going to paste a small Python snippet. And interestingly, the tool detected the language automatically. I didn't even have to click Analyze Code. Even though this is a prototype, it's nice to see the model adding smart auto-detection features. But let's test it properly with a wrong or messy code sample to see if it can actually catch issues. So I'm keeping all the options same and now pasting a longer, intentionally broken Python code. This is a pretty large snippet, so if the tool can handle this, that's impressive. Now I will click on Analyze Code, and yes, it's working. You can see it shows that it found 6 refactorings, and below that it has generated a detailed breakdown. What was wrong, where the logic failed, what could be optimized, and what the corrected or improved version should look like. So this is exactly the kind of explanation beginners need, because when you are learning, it's not enough to just fix the code. You need to know why it was wrong and how it can be improved. So overall, as you can see, this is working extremely well. The interface looks neat, the reasoning behind each fix is clearly written, and the tool behaves just like an actual code analyzer. Alright, let's move on to our next idea, and this one is genuinely exciting. For this test, my prompt is create a web-based AI workflow assistant in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that helps users plan multi-stage projects like YouTube video production. Divide the process into planning, scripting, editing, publishing. Show the reasoning steps visually using a progress bar or flow view. Generate a single HTML file that can be opened directly in the browser. Now I will turn on the thinking model, hit send, and let it process. You can see the thinking process has already started, and this is where Kimi K2 really shines. It doesn't just generate code as I told you, it thinks through why each part is needed, what the structure should be, and how the workflow will function together. Alright, let's preview the output. And this looks surprisingly clean and well organized. We have got workflow, flow view, analytics, all clearly laid out. It has both list view and flow view, so users can switch between a simple checklist or a visual pipeline depending on their style. On the top, there is a progress bar showing 10% completed, and below that, you can see all the stages like planning, scripting, editing, publishing. This gives users a clean understanding of what stage they are currently in and what's coming next. So there is also a built-in AI assistant panel on the site. This means if you are stuck at any stage, maybe you are unsure how to write your script or you need help planning your content, you can directly ask the assistant for suggestions, tips, or ideas. So visually and functionally, the model has done an impressive job. The UI is simple, professional, and easy to navigate. Alright, this idea turned out really well. So now let's jump to our next idea and see what else we can build with Kimi K2 Thinking. Now let's move on to my next point, and this one is really interesting. This time I asked the model to build an interactive math tutor app using HTML, CSS and JS. It should teach step-by-step problem solving for algebra or geometry. The user can enter a math problem and see guided reasoning. Output a full HTML file that can be opened directly in a browser. After typing the prompt, I hit send, and the thinking model immediately started analyzing how to structure the app, what features it should include, how the reasoning system will work, and how the interface should adapt to both desktop and mobile. Once the generation finished, I opened the preview, and honestly it looks really neat. One thing I love is that I can instantly switch to mobile view. And the interesting part, the model has automatically optimized the layout for both versions. So the interface adjusts itself whether you are viewing this on a desktop screen or a mobile device. So the design is intentionally simple and clean, which is exactly what a math learning tool needs. No distractions, just clarity, right? Here you can choose between algebra and geometry. If I pick geometry for example, it lets me select a specific shape like triangles, circles, rectangles, etc. After selecting a shape, it gives me all the input fields I need. I can type in values for each options. Once everything is filled, I just click solve map and the app will start generating the solution step by step, right? Alright, let's move on to our next idea because this model has a lot more potential we can explore. So this time I wanted to build a web app focused on self-improvement, okay? So something that actually helps users stay consistent with their goals. So my prompt was build an AI self-improvement coach web app, HTML, CSS, JS. Users enter their goal. The app generates daily tasks, motivation, and progress tracking. Include reasoning behind daily advice. Output one HTML file for preview in browser. And hit send. Alright, just look at what it created. It generated such a clean and functional web app called AI Self-Improvement Coach. When I switch to the mobile view, it's perfectly optimized. The layout automatically adjusts for both desktop and mobile, which means the model already understands responsive design. The interface is very simple. The user just needs to enter their goal. So for example, if I want to learn English, I will type English. Okay. Then I can select a category. The app keeps multiple categories, so I will choose learning. After that, I can select a timeline. So let's say 60 days and click generate my plan. And look at this, it instantly creates a daily improvement plan for me. It tells me exactly what I need to do, like spending 30 minutes every day focusing on learning. And what I really loved is that it even explains the reasoning behind the advice, right? So why this specific task will help me achieve my goal faster. So that's a good thing. I can also mark each task as completed. When I do that, the app automatically updates my progress. The whole tracking system is built in and works smoothly, which is honestly very impressive. So after testing the Kimi K2 Thinking model across multiple real projects, one thing is very clear. This isn't just another AI update. This model actually thinks through your prompt, plans every step, and then builds things with proper structure and logic. My honest advice is don't just use this model for outputs. Use it for its reasoning. That's where the real power is. The more detailed your prompt is, the deeper it thinks. And the more freedom you give it, the smarter its solutions get. One small tip from my experience is that whenever you use Kimi K2 Thinking, pay attention to its thought process more than the code or UI it generates. Because that thinking step shows you why it chose a certain design, why it structured the logic that way. And sometimes it even suggests improvements you didn't think of yourself. Also, don't be afraid to pose it with real-world tasks. This model performs best when you give it something slightly challenging, something that requires planning, not just generation. So overall, my experience has been really impressive. It's fast, logical, and honestly feels like working with a proper developer who explains their decisions along the way. If you are planning to build your own projects, workflows, apps, or experiments, definitely try this model. You will be surprised by how much it can do. And with that, I hope this video helped you understand the real capabilities of the Kimi K2 thinking model. If you found this useful, make sure to like the video, share it with someone who might benefit, and subscribe for more smart AI content like this.